Welcome to the Wealth and Legacy Builders podcast. This is your host, Kristen Mineth, the faithful investor. As a self-made millionaire, I've gained a unique perspective on money over the last 20 years. If you're exhausted running ragged pursuing the next strategy to finally make it to financial freedom, this podcast is for you. Here we'll dive into what the creator of the universe says about wealth, how to get it, how to keep it, and how to grow it. God has that missing piece for you, hidden truths for you to seek out in His Word. Tune into the Wealth and Legacy Builders podcast every Monday morning as we go deeper each week. What's up? Welcome to the Wealth and Legacy Builders podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Mineth. I'm excited to be here today because I really think this is going to open your eyes to a lot of maybe why there's chaos in your life, why there's a lot to manage, and maybe we'll give you some guidance on what you can actually do about it. So this all started when my daughter asked me, well, she's very artistic, and I'll just say it's difficult for this mom who likes some order in her life to manage her chaos. And so, but I don't want to burst her bubble. I don't want to crush her. Like, God made her this way, and she's actually okay with her chaos. So we're working on that together. But she asked me, why is it so easy to make a mess and yet so hard to clean it up? And I sat down with her and I was like, actually, let's chat about that. I think this will make you feel one less guilty. And that's probably my fault. She feels bad when she has a messy room. I don't like a messy room. So I'm like, Skylar, come on, like clean up your mess. But here's the thing. Why is that so hard? Why is it so easy to spend your money, and yet managing your money feels so tedious? Or if you're planting a garden, why is it like hard to take care of it? Why doesn't it just produce fruit and line up in perfect even rows all the time by itself? Like the Pinterest worthy gardens, why does it take so much work? Here's the answer. We live in a universe that is moving from order to chaos. Everything moves from order to chaos. And I said this to my daughter. I said, if you take your jar of colored pencils and you threw them on the floor right now, would you expect them to all line up evenly in rainbow order? She's like, no, that would be crazy. Right. So everything is moving from order to chaos. Your finances, if they go unattended, move from order to chaos. You remember back in the days when people would balance their checkbooks? I don't think very many of us do that, at least not the way it was done back then, because now we're all using cards. Everything's electronic now. But same thing. That was the order. It took time, and people would check out of the grocery stores. And if you've been behind somebody who balances their checkbook at the grocery store today, it's like the whole line is looking at them like, are you serious? Because the order takes time, it takes intention, it takes effort. So that person is making that effort in that moment. It's taking time, even at the dismay of everyone else in line, to bring their books, their accounts back in order. So that is what we're dealing with all the time. If you took some gardening seeds and you just threw them out, would you expect them all to line up in perfect rows? Would you expect those plants all the tomatoes to line up together? And there's certain things you don't want to plant next to tomatoes. And then there's certain things that thrive next to tomatoes. So would you expect all that to just line up evenly and perfectly? Or would you expect to have, you might produce some fruit, but it's going to be total chaos. You're not going to know what's coming up. Are these peppers or are these tomatoes? Is this a basil plant or is this corn? You won't know until it comes up, and it's going to be a free-for-all. And it may not be as fruitful or effective as if you had put forth effort into it. So can my daughter function in her chaotic room? Sure, a little bit. She can't really find her stuff. She runs out of laundry all the time because her laundry doesn't end up in the hamper, and it creates more chaos. Chaos creates more chaos. And the effort we end up putting in to mitigate the chaos while we're in it can be so much more frustrating than had we taken care of it in the first place. So it's up to us to create the order. Now, this can be challenging because this requires new habits and new skills. If you currently have a bank account that is kind of dipping low and hitting close to zero every month until you put something back into it and whoo, okay, whew, we're good for a little bit longer. And then the same thing happens. And it's just like, you're barely managing. You're barely hanging on. You're living paycheck to paycheck. That's a cycle because you're doing the same things, the same spending habits, and you have the same set of skills unless you grow those skills to know how to either earn more money or save more money, right? So we're going to stay in the same cycle of chaos unless we make effort. And like, we'll go back to the Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. Being a good steward requires skill. Remember, they were handed talents based on their level of skill. They were entrusted with more based on their level of skill. So the things that you've been entrusted with, if you feel like you're in a cycle of chaos, you are staying there because you're not growing your skill. You're not building better habits. You're not taking different action. The Proverbs 31 woman that we talked about last episode, she manages her household. She manages a business. She manages the finances, and she grows and she sees opportunity, and there's growth, there's fruit from her labor that enables her to say yes to opportunities that present themselves to her. And her actions glorify God and brings honor to her family. That is a purpose behind what she does. It's the driving force behind what she does. But her life is full of managing what God has entrusted her with and growing it. She has skills. That is very clear. Woman's got some serious skills. So another thing I would like to say, and I think this is really important. I did a quick Facebook post on this and it went crazy. Like, people were sharing it and commenting on it and like so inspired by it. Because one thing I pointed out, we're not in this alone. We're not managing all the chaos around us by ourselves. We're not necessarily called to do that. We do need to take personal responsibility and be accountable for what we're entrusted with, but it's okay to ask for help. The Proverbs 31 woman has help. She has help in the home. That's written in scripture. So if you're in over your head and you're feeling like you're drowning, I want you to ask yourself, where do I need to grow? What skills and habits do I need to grow to manage this better, to be a better and more faithful steward for what I've been given? And whose help do I need? Now, believe me, as someone who hates asking for help from anyone, I hate it. And yet when I do, it is such a burden off my shoulders. I'm so grateful when I actually ask for help, but it is so hard for me. But push through that. And I want you to know you're not alone if you struggle to ask for help. In a way, I commend you. I commend you for taking responsibility for what you are entrusted with and trying to do it on your own. But that doesn't mean you're called to. I think it's a better state of being than playing the victim and expecting things from other people and expecting the chaos to resolve itself as a law of the universe. That's just not going to happen. Chaos is just going to create more chaos. Things move from order to chaos. So your chaos is not going to fix itself. But take the personal responsibility for what your part can be, what habits you need to fix, what skill sets you need, and what help you can get. Maybe that's asking a relative or a good friend to watch your kids. Now, I love having my kids around, but that doesn't mean sometimes I don't need the free space to work really, really, really hard. I did that the other day. My mom actually took the kids for a night, and we haven't done that in a long time. And I spent hours organizing and managing my household, hours cleaning their rooms. I mean, it was epic. Now, if you need rest, there's nothing wrong with it. That's biblical too. Rest is important. And if you're managing so much chaos that you're unable to rest, one, that's a lie. You can always rest, but you're making a choice. Two, get help. Figure out how you can either be more efficient and more effective with your time and your energy, and or get help. I recently got help for my husband. He does the yard work, and it became, I hired help to do the yard. It was 45 man hours to bring our yard back into a manageable space. And I told my husband that, and I surprised him with it. So he didn't even know we were doing it, but I surprised him with that because I wanted him to know, like, it's okay to get help. It took 45 man hours to get our yard back to manageable. Like, your time is better spent on your expertise and what you're good at. And while it's fine to spend time in the yard, that would have taken, a full week of working his butt off to accomplish while neglecting everything else he's been entrusted with. We are human. We can't do it all. We can't show up and put 45 hours into a 24-hour day. We can't sacrifice sleep. We know what will happen. We will end up in the hospital if you go without sleep. Guaranteed. So what do you need to do? What skills can you improve on? What habits can you improve or incorporate? And what help can you get? I mean that. We're all taking on too much of the things we're not necessarily called to do in this moment. So if you are entrusted with something and you feel like it's a priority and God's calling you to focus on it, but you're in over your head, you might need to actually ask for help. The Proverbs 31 woman has help. And I think that's something we don't acknowledge often enough because she's so powerful and she does so much and she's so amazing. She takes care of her family. She takes care of her business. She's growing financially. She's earning an income and honoring her family and honoring the Lord. And we fail to recognize that she has help. So ask for the help. Figure that part out and stop trying to do it on your own because you're just going to be spinning your wheels and your chaos is just going to grow more chaos. All right, let's shake on it. Virtual handshake that we're going to ask for help this week. Okay, I'll see you next Monday. Thank you for being a part of the Wealth and Legacy Builders podcast. If you found value here today, please take a moment to leave us a review and share this podcast with someone else who will be blessed by this message. We'll see you Monday for the next episode.